Test, test, 1, 2. Guys, welcome. Good deal. We'll get started here in just a second. I'm going to post the link real quick into the live feed. Oh, someone already did it. Good deal. All right. Yeah, I really hope Jeff is all right. I know many of you guys were probably watching Jeff P. I'm not going to try to attempt to pronounce his last name. He was standing right inside the eye wall there. For like what seemed like an hour, which I personally have never seen an event like that live. I mean, you've seen footage of newscasters that stand, in Hurricane Andrew, and I know Charlie and a few others, but I've never seen something like that. And honestly, it was borderline stupid. But anyhow, I don't think the guy's injured. I think it's just, either his phone died or, he lost cell connection, something like that. But there was 70,000 people watching that, which to me is insane. So, anyhow. But guys, I want to say welcome on behalf of subreddit Tropical Weather, on behalf of all the moderators, on behalf of all the people that have contributed, and the new meteorologists and the new scientists that we have within the live chat, and also the IRC channel. Thank you very much for being part of this today. I think right now, I think it's pretty safe to say that coastal Texas is experiencing probably its worst landing of a hurricane since Celia in the 1970s. And we have yet to see how this event unfolds. So, thank you to everybody who's contributed to that. And there's a lot of information that needs to get out there, I think, over the next several days. This is not just an event normally where a hurricane hits and it's over in an evening and then the impacts are there. This is a 5 to 7 day duration. But anyway, I just think it's important to make sure we go over some bases here in terms of what I think the impact will be for landfall, what the impacts will be, in the next 24 hours, and then not to mention what the effects are going to be in the next week. So anyhow, good to see that Jeff came back on the Periscope. Anyway, so real quick, I want to go back over a few things. So I want to talk a little bit about where Harvey originated from, where it came from, why it felt so sudden to some people, and then where it is now. We're going to do a little bit of a journey, if you will. So this right here is imagery. It's a microwave imagery that's used to depict what the core of a system looks like. And you can see right here where I have listed, you can see my cursor there. This made its way across the Yucatan and then made its way into the Gulf of Mexico. It was a tropical depression when it landed in the Yucatan and then eventually made its way as an open wave. It wasn't even a tropical depression after it passed over the Yucatan. But as you can see right here coming up, and again, it was very erratic over the Yucatan, it began to reform its core here. And that was the beginnings of what ended up turning into Harvey 2.0, that blew up over the Gulf of Mexico. And to bring that up here real quick, these are some of this what are called spaghetti models, model track guidance. And this is what back in, what was the 18th? So looking at I gotta go pull this up here real quick, pulling back on the 18th. So about a week ago, this initialized and said, hey, there's a chance that tropical depression to a tropical storm is possible for the Texas coast about a week ago. Again, you see this a lot. This is not uncommon to see U.S. strikes when it comes to model runs. Matter of fact, the big joke with anyone that follows weather, or any meteorologist, is that the GFS will usually have a storm on it 120 hours out that's impacting the U.S. So nothing was really made of this because oftentimes these things just dissipate and the models point the other way and say it's not going to develop. And then I want to point out here real quick too, this is a model threshold that shows where the different models thought the storm would end up. And this is, again, initialized on Friday. And some of these things said, oh, Category 1, Category 2, some Category 3. Only 2 out of the entire ensemble of models that exist that predict these storms showed a Category 4 being possible. And if you were to look at this as someone that is an enthusiast or an actual meteorologist, you'd understand that very low chance that, you know, we get into the Category 2 or 3 range, so more than likely a Category 1. It's pretty crazy, though, that these models are that skilled enough to sniff that out a week in advance. So the next thing I want to talk about, and this is important to me because, you know, I think it often gets lost with hurricanes or any tropical system as far as what impacts are going to be. Freshwater flooding is by and large the largest impact from these systems. People want to talk about wind speeds. People want to talk about pressure, the size of the storm, things like that. Freshwater flooding, as you can see, nearly 60% of deaths are related to freshwater flooding. So if you live in areas that are prone to flooding, if you live around areas that have surge, often the rivers or whatnot that get inundated, this is something to take notice of, especially in southeast Texas, southwest Texas, and along the coast. And even as far as inland as, say, Austin, even parts of San Antonio need to take notice to this, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So real quick, this right now is the radar imagery of Harvey, and as you can see, it's actually straddling right near Rockport, I believe that's where this is. And technically speaking, I think at this point we can say that's an actual landfall. You know, it's actually hard to determine landfall. You'd think it'd be an easy practice, but it's actually very precise science behind it. And the science is that the eye wall has to split. Essentially, it has to split the land that it's covering. So if only a portion of the eye wall goes over, it's not landfall. It has to bisect that eye, and I think we're pretty close to there. But the interesting thing to note, you see as it repeats through a loop here, it has stalled essentially right near Rockport, just northeast of Corpus Christi, and I really believe that, you know, we don't really know the track from here forward. It could move further inland. It could move further southwest. It could come out east back over the bay. The next 12 hours are going to be very interesting with this system, but I think it's important to note that this made a full stop and is now slowly creeping north, but there's no real true motion to it that we can see. So let's talk about rainfall. This is why I have you guys here, and I'll make this pretty brief going here forward. Rainfall, like I said, that's the #1 cause of fatalities and when it comes to tropical systems. And when you're talking about a range of 15 to 30 inches of rain, that stretches, somewhere I read it was a region that is as large as the state of Massachusetts. That's a very serious warning from National Weather Service. This is straight from tweet that I pulled up, but they basically said that they upped their forecasts. Catastrophic flooding is expected. This is a life-threatening situation. So the actual hurricane landing is going to have damages associated with that, and that's something that we have to recognize. But from tonight through next Thursday, we're going to see rain persist in this region, especially this area here, the 15 to 30 range. And we'll show you why even some higher outputs have been put by models for total rainfall over the course of the next 3 days. So this is rainfall so far. This is actually a little old, so don't look at this and take it as gospel for right now. But just 2 hours ago, you can see right here, there's zones that showed 5 inches of rainfall already. Near Freeport, 4 to 3 inches. This is right after it had made its way up. Harvey had made its way up probably about 2 hours out from now, so 2 hours ago, and it already dropped 5 inches of rain in that time. Consider the fact that this system is going to linger in this area for the next 4 days at rainfall rates sometimes 3 to 6 inches per hour. So it's impossible to know exactly where those pockets will be of those heavy totals, but they will appear, somewhere between Corpus Christi, Victoria, and I would say Houston. Those are really, that's the main zone where epic floods are going to occur, and I'll show you more data that supports that. So here we have the European model, and I want to point this out right now. I don't know if you guys can see it on your screen. Move it on over here. But the actual scale, it's right here. So the scale goes all the way up to 25 inches. That's what you see listed here. That's this, again, this entire region is 25 inch plus. It broke the scale for the European model in terms of the amount of moisture output. They have to readjust the scale because of the system. I'm sure that's something that will be done once the data is analyzed and they incorporate that. But at the scales as is right now, it maxes out at 25, and that's why you see such a wide area. I really think that there are going to be areas that see 40 inches, maybe even 50 inches of rain, and there is other data to support that, not just me saying it, but I really think that is a possibility. Where exactly, not really sure. That all depends on track, and we'll be getting into that here in a second as well. So this is another European run. This was from earlier today. This is a total moisture output from a site called eurowx.com. And you can see here, this is again near Rockport area, 51.1 inches of rain, 34 just north of Corpus Christi, 36, 33, and then it kind of tails off as you make your way over here. Important to note when we're talking about these totals, it is all dependent upon the track of the storm. If the storm, as currently predicted, comes up and then curls out, you'll see these totals, and this will be more than likely the outcome of the amount of moisture. But if this model decides, or if this storm decides to go against the model, and maybe drift out further, or maybe drift out west, or maybe drift north, or maybe come up, come back. I mean, there's so many different scenarios in track. It's going to change the totals for the said region. So really right now, meteorologists and enthusiasts, etc., have pretty much picked an area, as you can see in white here, and says, hey, anywhere in this region, 15 to 30, 50 inches possible in localized spots. So that's something to think about. Another thing to point out, this was a good tweet that came out, and I copied this, but you can see here this evening, this is where the system is right now. Look where it is Wednesday. It's moved inland per the European. Actually, this is the GFS, which is the American model, but it's showing here this evening, and then it's moved up here on Wednesday. That just gives you an idea over the course of 4 or 5 days, it's still in Texas and it's still going to be dumping rain. So that's, again, just trying to paint the picture of how much rain, how much moisture is going to be associated with this. So this here is the European model, and I'm showing you this specifically for track, where we think it will likely go. Okay, so this is pretty much 12 hours from now. So it would be around, you know what, it's around 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can see here it's still kind of lingering near the Corpus Christi area. 24 hours later, it's still lingering. Another 24 hours later, we're still here. Again, 96 hours after landfall, it now comes back out over the Gulf of Mexico. 120 hours out, comes back in and approaches the same area where it just made landfall. 144 hours out, it's now approaching Houston. 168 hours out, it's now making its way over eastern central Texas, and then makes its way out to the northeast towards the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. So if that were to occur, that is when you would see moisture totals like this, like we just talked about. Highest being in this area and then slowly going down in these areas. That's not to say, though, that some of these areas can't exceed what these numbers are saying. You could see 30s here. Very well possible. Anyone that lives in the Houston area, you would know that anything above, you know, anything above 10 to 15 inches would be catastrophic. 30, you know, we would be talking about some very tough choices that would be made by local officials and people that would still be in that area, and just, you know, property loss, etc. It would be terrible. I'm going to animate this so you guys can see. This is another version of the European. This is again off eurowx.com, euroweather.com, and I just want to animate this for you so you can actually see what it looks like in motion. And this is a higher resolution model, not so much in how you can view it, but it has more frames, so it gives you an idea of the movement. So you can see it came on shore and then eventually makes its way off. It'll loop here again, starting now. You go back here, see it makes its way on shore, decides to kind of button hook, come down back southwest, comes back up, and then makes its way across Houston back to northeast. And if you look at the time slot, which is up here, Saturday, that's where it is, Sunday, and then into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. A long duration event in which tropical storm levels are still around on Wednesday, which if any of you lived through Tropical Storm Allison, you'll know just how much damage that did. Take that, extend it over a period of 4 days, and that's pretty much what you have with what's forecasted for Harvey. So the last thing I want to talk about here real quick, and again, I want to make this pretty brief. These are images from the 2015 floods in Houston. I think this is important for people to kind of visualize, okay? This is after 10 to 12 inches of rain over a period of, I think it was less than 12 hours. Obviously a pretty large scale event, but as you see, highways inundated, the city itself flooded, and, you know, obviously a lot of property damage, and, you know, generally it was a terrible event for Houston and areas like that. There are going to be areas that have water 14 feet high up to like this height as example if we see 30 inches of rain in Houston in points west and east. That is not that's not an exaggeration. The models have been saying it. National Hurricane Center has been saying it. National Weather Service has been saying it. And now it's being observed. This is now an observation of rain rates that are happening right now from Harvey as it makes its way. And let's check the radar here again real quick. yeah, again, it continues to move in a very slow northerly fashion right now. It stalled just about 30 minutes ago. And it will continue to do this dance, if you will, for quite some time, as I showed. So that's really what this was about. I don't really want to get into any more details right now. This is a very kind of fluid situation. There's a lot of factors, like I was talking about, as far as what could steer it. It could steer east, west, possibly northeast. Who knows right now? And that kind of uncertainty doesn't sit well with anybody, but especially people whose job it is to forecast this stuff. I really feel for them. So again, thank you guys for joining the moderation team over at Tropical Weather. They've done a fantastic job in representing that live thread. Continue to watch it. We'll continue to put updates on there. And again, I thank you for your time, and you all take care and be safe. I hope anyone near this area takes this very seriously, and let's hope for the best outcome. Thank you guys.